All right, we're diving into the story of an insect that went from, just another ant to a full-blown biological disaster. And here's the thing. This isn't just about a bug. This is about a monster that we ourselves created. Okay, look at this number, $6 billion. Let that sink in. That's the staggering cost every single year from the damage caused by just one type of insect. And that's just in the United States. So, you've got to be asking, how in the world did this happen? I mean, how does a tiny little ant from South America manage to cause this much chaos and rack up a bill that big? Well, let's get into it. To really get how we got this monster, we've got to rewind. We have to go all the way back to the beginning and understand the ant back when it was, well, just an ant. So here it is, Solenopsis invicta. You probably know it as the red imported fire ant. Now, back in its native home, the floodplains of South America, this thing wasn't some headline-grabbing terror. Nope, it was just one small piece of a huge, complex ecosystem. And the reason it wasn't a problem? Because nature had it all figured out. There was this whole system of checks and balances. You had a network of natural enemies, things like parasitic flies that literally turned these ants into zombies, predatory beetles, even tiny soil microbes. They all worked together to keep the fire ant population under control. Yeah, their sting hurt for sure, but they weren't some kind of ecological menace. And this slide right here, this gets to the absolute heart of the story. On one side, in South America, it's a native species, totally under control, just part of the local scene. But on the other side, as an invader, its population just explodes. It becomes a biological catastrophe. This is the first crucial turning point. The big takeaway is that the problem wasn't really the ant. It was the environment we dropped it into. So how did it make that jump across continents? Well, this is where a seemingly tiny event, really just a simple mistake in global trade, ended up changing, well, everything. So picture this. It's the 1930s. The fire ant shows up as an unnoticed stowaway in Mobile, Alabama. It was probably hiding in the dirt used to balance out cargo ships. And for years, nobody thought much of it. It was just seen as, a slightly more aggressive local bug. Port security back then just wasn't looking for tiny insects, and honestly, the whole idea of an ecological threat wasn't really a thing yet. And that right there, overlooking this small invasion, that was the second huge mistake. Fast forward to the 1950s, and the problem wasn't small anymore, not at all. Because in the American South, the fire ant found the absolute perfect environment to go from just a nuisance to a full-on super predator. I mean, it was literally a perfect storm. The climate, warm, just what they liked. Their natural enemies, thousands of miles away back in South America. And America served up this all-you-can-eat buffet of disturbed land. Think manicured lawns, big farms, construction sites, places where these ants could just thrive. And to make things even worse, a lot of their colonies had multiple queens. This let them reproduce at an absolutely insane rate, spreading out for miles and miles every single year. And the damage they caused? It wasn't just one thing. It was this total disaster happening on 3 different fronts. And what's crazy is how the impact goes so far beyond just a painful bite. Okay, first up, the direct threat to us, to people. See, fire ants don't just sting you once. They swarm. They attack all at once, injecting venom that causes these horrible, painful welts. And for some people, it can trigger deadly allergic reactions. And the cost here is tragically real. We're talking dozens of people in the U.S., often kids and the elderly, who die every single year from anaphylactic shock caused by these stings. This isn't just an annoyance, folks. It's a legitimate, lethal threat. Then you've got the economic side of it, which is just devastating. They kill young farm animals, they wipe out crops, and get this, for some bizarre reason, they're attracted to electricity. So they swarm into things like traffic lights and power boxes, causing short circuits and even starting fires. So, how did we fight back against this invasion? Well, the truth is, for the better part of 100 years, we've been fighting a war against this tiny ant. And it's a war that, by pretty much every measure, we've lost. This whole fight kind of happened in 3 phases. First, back in the 50s and 60s, it was just all-out chemical warfare. We were literally dumping pesticides like DDT out of planes. Total failure. It wrecked the environment, and the ants just bounced back, even stronger. So then we switched gears to damage control. We basically gave up on getting rid of them and just tried to manage the problem with bait traps. And finally, starting in the 90s, we tried something new, biological control. We actually imported the ant's old arch nemesis, the Phorid fly. And it's had some limited success, but it's no silver bullet. So today, America has had to accept a really hard truth. The fire ant isn't going anywhere. But this story doesn't stop at the US border. Oh no. The very same things that brought the ant to America have now turned it into a global threat. And in doing so, it's created this chilling blueprint for what future invasions might look like. So in the 2000s, sure enough, global shipping carried the ant over to Asia. Now it's spreading like wildfire across China, and it's become a huge problem in Taiwan. It's even been spotted in Japan, which gives them this grim advantage of knowing exactly what America messed up as they try to stop it from getting a foothold. And this really brings us to the most crucial point. The fire ant story isn't really about a super tough insect. It's the story of an invader that we created. We made the choices. We're the ones who separated it from its predators. We're the ones who built it a perfect new home to thrive in. And we're the ones who failed to act when the problem was still small enough to handle. And that's why, today, the experts don't just see this as a pest problem. They call it a systemic disaster, a totally predictable result of our global shipping, our trade systems, even how we plan our cities. From start to finish, this whole thing is a man-made problem. You know, this whole mess has basically turned the fire ant into the prototype, the model for the invasive species of the future. It's a living blueprint of how a small, local creature can become a global nightmare, all because of what we do. And that leaves us with one pretty unsettling question. What's going to be next?